Hi, this is Sean Casey, and I'm here with Ron LeGrand to answer one of the burning questions in the minds of all real estate investors. How do I get the money to make this deal work? So tell me, Ron, how do I get the money?
Well, first of all, let's describe what we're going to use the money for. Let's assuming that we're looking for money to buy houses and pay all cash for them.
Okay.
For several reasons, you'd want to be able to raise money to buy houses. Number one, when you're making cash offers, Sean, you really got the power in your hands. Yeah, when you're saying I'll pay you X number of dollars in cash without any seller carryback or any kind of crazy terms on it, people wake up and they listen. They pay attention. Your offer may not be enough to suit them, but when you say I'm paying you all cash, they really only got one choice to make, and that is this enough money for my house? So having the ability to pay all cash for properties puts you in a strong position when you're making offers. But it also makes you sleep better at night when you're out there making offers on properties and you know where the money's going to come from.
Sure.
So let's go over some of those ways right now, and we'll go through each one of them. But before I do that, let me point out that you don't even need the ability to generate the cash to have the ability to make the offers.
Okay.
I teach people throughout this country that wholesaling houses is one of the easiest and the best businesses to generate cash in a hurry, and that's simply nothing more than finding the bargains and passing them on to the bargain hunters. And if you do it properly, you'll never have to worry about raising money because you'll have the house sold before you even need to close on it. Your buyer brings in the money to buy the house. Your closing agent takes out the funds you promised the seller, and you get a check for the difference. So raising cash is really a backdoor or a escape route.
Sure.
It's your exit strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You only raise cash when you're in the wholesaling business if you don't get it sold before you have to close on it.
All right.
Now, of course, if you're going to retail the house, you want to buy it and fix it and then sell it to the end consumer. Obviously, the methods that we're going to talk about here to raise cash are important.
Okay.
Even when we're doing that, though, we're talking about short-term cash. So what I'm going to do right now is go over some ways to raise some short-term cash.
Okay.
If you have to come up with the money to buy the house, you do it, you buy it, you fix it, and you sell it, or you just buy it and then you sell it wholesale and somebody else pays you off. So anything we do right now, it's for the purpose of getting into the house and being able to make all cash offers and knowing where the money's coming from. Okay?
All right, good. Now, Ron, I noticed that the word bank is not on your list.
The word bank is not on my list, no. I buy houses from banks, Sean. I don't go to banks to borrow money to buy houses. The biggest and the easiest way I know to get money to buy houses, well, not necessarily the easiest, but the way I use most, and I have been using for years and years and years. In fact, what got me started in this business was the use of private loans. I'm in the private loan business. I'm a mortgage broker. I make private loans in Florida to investors and owner-occupants. I charge a high interest rate. I'm not using my money. I'm using money from individuals, people who have IRAs and pension plans, and just working people. I take their money and I loan it out on single-family houses, and I do it at a very low loan-to-value ratio. In other words, 50% is my loan-to-value ratio. I won't exceed 50% of the after-repaired value.
Mm-hmm. So
put yourself in an investor's shoes. If you're buying a house worth $70 and you're paying $30 for it because it needs work, I could actually loan you $35,000 on it. So I could loan you more than you're actually paying for the property, and do so every week. I loan investors like us more money than they're paying for the property every single week.
Okay.
Now, it's a safe loan because it is a low loan-to-value ratio. If I make you a $30,000, $35,000 loan on a $70,000 house, my investor simply can't lose. The one putting up the money can't lose. If you don't make the payments, they're very well secured because they've got plenty of collateral to cover their debt. I rarely ever have one happen like that, and I almost never have one go into default because of that equity that's in the property. So it works for my lender because they're getting a high rate of return. Mm-hmm. The loans that I make right now are 15% interest. Okay. Now, if you're borrowing money and you're borrowing it for a very short period of time, the interest rates you pay shouldn't have any bearing on it at all.
No, it really doesn't.
No,
it's the availability of cash. It seems it makes such a difference,
not
the cost.
Right. It's what I learned in the very beginning. It's not the cost of the funds that are important, it's the availability of it. So there are private lenders like this all over the country, but most people don't know where to find them because a lot of them don't even know they're private lenders yet. Okay, so you have to seek out the people who would want to get a higher return on their money, and that's really not complicated, nor is it hard. I mean, everybody knows somebody with IRAs. Everybody knows somebody with money that got invested in CDs and stocks and so forth. It's simply a matter of asking them, loan me the money. Secure it by the property. I'll give you a first or a second mortgage or trust deed to secure your interest. I'll get title insurance for you. I'll get an appraisal. I'll do everything right. I'll have a closing agent close it. I won't exceed 50-60% of the value of the property. I'll pay you 15% interest while I'm using your money. And if you wish, I'll even pay you a little prepayment penalty. When I make a loan, I charge my borrowers 3 months interest prepayment penalty. Now, if I were borrowing it for my own use, I wouldn't do that. Okay. Most people are tickled to death with the 15% return.
Sure.
Okay. So basically, one of the best avenues of income to buy houses are from your friends, your associates, and your acquaintances, just simply by putting their money to use at a high rate of return, well secured, in a no-lose position for them. And believe me, once you get that started, once you get a few people doing that, they're going to tell people they know, and soon you're going to have a whole lot more money to buy houses with than you'll ever need. Now remember, your objective: buy it, fix it, sell it, pay the person off, and go right back to the same pool over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like you're going to need a lot of people to use their funds. You're just going to keep recycling the same money anyway.
That's right. That's right.
Now, some people come up and they say, well, Ron, I don't know anybody that's got any money. Well, first of all, I think you need to upgrade your circle of influence.
Absolutely.
If you don't know anybody that's got any money, you're hanging around with the wrong crowd to begin with. You need to start hanging around with people who have money. And pretty soon you'll be like them. You'll have money.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't know anybody that's got any money, you can always find a mortgage broker. There are mortgage brokers like myself in many cities who are in the business of lending out private loans. If you pick up the Yellow Pages or the newspaper and you see anybody advertising that they'll loan money and credit's not important and you can be bankrupt or like that, they're loaning out private money. And they're probably the kind of people you're looking for. Now, you're going to have to pay them a brokerage fee all the way up to 10% of the loan. But if you have to pay a mortgage broker 10% of the loan and pay 15% interest, frankly, it's just the cost of doing business.
That's right.
In fact, that's how I got started, Sean. When I first started back in 1982, I found one of these mortgage brokers. He'd make me a loan based on the value of the property, and that time I paid 18% interest. He collected 10 points, 10% of every single loan. But I quickly learned that I'd rather pay him 10% of the loan than I would pay a partner 50% of the deal.
Or not make the money at all.
Exactly. In fact, if the money hadn't been there, I couldn't have bought the property and fixed it and resold it. So it made it very easy for me to do business.
Mm-hmm. And I get people all the time say to me, well, I'm not spending $3,000 for loan fees and interest. And, of course, they'd rather not make the $10,000 or $12,000 they could off the house.
Yeah.
I mean, folks, if it costs you $3,000 and you get 10, that's what you're supposed to be doing. That's called profit.
That's kind of a no-brainer, isn't it?
That's right.
Got to keep your greed glands in check.
That's right.
Sometimes if you don't have sources of funds, and private loans is the way you're going to get them, you just got to pay the cost.
That's right.
Frankly, if the cost of getting the money kills the deal, you're paying too much for the house anyway.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Okay. So there's a never-ending supply of private money out there. And there's mortgage brokers in a lot of cities that can scrounge it up for you if you want to pay them. And frankly, if you're too lazy to go out and generate the money yourself, because there's not a person listening to this tape that doesn't know someone that, if properly presented, would be interested in making loans. And it's just that simple. There's too much money out there for you not be able to tap into that source.
We have another way that we could do things, and that is to not pay the seller all cash.
That's called split funding.
Okay.
Now, when you're dealing with an individual, now this won't work with institutional sellers. When you're making an offer to a bank or lending institution or FDIC or Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, what kind of offer do they want?
Cash.
Cash. So let's don't kid ourselves here.
Okay.
That's the kind of offer we need to make. And by the way, while I'm on that subject, those are the entities that I buy most of my junkers through.
Mm-hmm.
I teach my students that you should focus on buying properties through institutional sellers. They're a lot easier to buy, but they want cash. Now, in the cases where you're going to buy them from individuals, even through realtors, if you know they're individually owned, you can make a split-funded offer. For example, let's suppose I was offering $30,000 for a house worth $60,000 or $70,000. It was in poor condition. I could say, I'll give you $5,000 now, and I'll give you $25,000 more within 6 months with no payments or no interest. Just take a first mortgage or a trust deed back on the house to secure your interest, and I'll pay you all off within 6 months.
Okay.
Now, as an investor, that gives me time to buy the house, fix it, and resell it.
All right.
With no holding costs in the middle because I don't have any payments to make.
Oh, that sounds good.
And I don't have any interest because I asked the seller to take back a short-term note.
Mm-hmm.
Since it was short-term, it's not hard to get them to forgive interest and payments. Basically, it's just a way to get the house bought by having the seller help you a little bit. By giving them some cash up front, you take care of closing costs, maybe put a little cash in their pocket. Usually when I make a split-funded offer, I will pay them more on the split-funded offer than I will on the all-cash offer.
Okay.
So I usually present them an all-cash offer and then a higher split-funded offer. In that same example, if I were going to offer them $30,000 split-funded, I might offer them $25,000 all-cash.
Sure.
So the seller gets a choice. Do I take all cash now, or do I get $5,000 more and wait a few months to get it? And in the cases where they choose to wait to get the higher price, it makes it real easy for you to come up with the money because obviously you could come up with $5,000 a lot quicker than you could come up with $30,000.
Absolutely.
And if you're wholesaling the house, it makes it easier for your buyer too, because you can pass the loan that you created to the seller, the $25,000 note, right on to your buyer. Even though it's got a 6-month balloon in it, your buyer's aware of that. They know that they can do the same thing, buy it and fix it and sell it and pay off that note to the seller. So
that's right.
Split funded does make it easier to buy houses. You have to come up with a little, but we'll use some of the other methods that we're going to talk about here to come up with, in that case, the small amounts, assuming that we don't have the money to use for ourselves.
Right. And I always think it's odd. People wonder why a seller would do this. Let's look at it. A seller has a house he can't sell because it's ugly, because it's the only kind of house we're buying.
Yeah, it's got termites.
It's got termites. You're going to give him $5,000. You're going to owe him $25,000, but you're fixing his house up for him.
Right.
I mean, if the seller's smart, he's going to hope you screw up and default because he's already got $5,000 and you fixed up his house for him.
Yeah, so it's not difficult to get.
Seller can't lose in this deal.
It's not difficult to get split funded offers accepted.
Sure, that's
really
right,
isn't.
because it makes sense for everybody.
Yeah.
Now, Ron, let's talk about sometimes the dreaded word, but often advantageous for people, partners.
Oh, partners are a good avenue of income. In fact, I've had a lot of partnerships in my career, Sean. Usually when I get a partner, though, I've got retailing on my mind. When I'm in the wholesaling business, I have absolutely no need for a partner. There's too many other ways to raise money if I intend to buy it and sell it in a few days, as is, where is. Frankly, before I'd take a partner in on that kind of a transaction, I'd try to get an extension on my contract and see if I could get my buyer before I had to close, or I'd go get a private loan of my own. But when you're retailing houses, sometimes it makes sense to have the partner put up all of the money to buy the house and then put up all the money to repair the house. And I teach my students that if you're going to be the mouse, as we call them, and you're going to go out and you're going to generate the deal and put the deal together, and you're going to make the offers, and you're going to open up all the oysters to get to the pearls, then you deserve also a upfront fee. You need to get a fee going in. So the partner not only puts up the money to buy the house, the partner puts up the money to repair the house, but it also puts up $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 as a finder's fee.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're aware of this. We're not keeping any secrets from them.
Sure.
So you as the mouse find the partner. The partner puts up all the money. You get paid the day you purchase the property, and then you and the partner split the proceeds the day you sell the property. So if I bought the house for $30,000 and I spent $10,000 to fix it, and I wanted $3,000 for my finder's fee, the partner would need $43,000.
All right.
Sell the house for $70,000, that's a very handsome profit, or even for $60,000. So the partner wins because the partner can own the property during this process if they wish to secure their interest. So basically, it's just a matter of finding somebody who can write you a check, own the home till you get it sold, write you a check, and sit around and wait for you to bring them a bigger check. And frankly, that's the only reason that I can think of why anybody would want a partner.
That's right, for the money.
Your partner needs to put up the money, or you don't need the partner.
That's right.
And don't do them anymore. Frankly, I just simply don't need them anymore. But I have had a lot of partnerships. And as far as I'm concerned, the partnership should end when the house is sold.
Yes.
Okay, I like partners where they're into one deal at a time, and then if you want to continue, you can. And frankly, once you do that with a partner and you make them that kind of return, they're going to be begging you to go find another deal.
That's right.
Believe me on that. How do you think I know that?
You know that because I've been in your office when they called, Ron.
It's gonna
spend
hurt.
my money.
It's going to hurt when you have to tell a partner you just don't need their money anymore, but that's the kind of time you look forward to.
That's right, because when we're talking about partners, and I want to just emphasize what you just said, we're not looking for you to go out and find somebody else who doesn't have any money, who can commiserate with you. We want you to find somebody with money. You know what to do. You know how to do the work. You know how to fix the house up, sell it, and all that stuff. All you need is somebody with money, not somebody to screw up your life.
Absolutely. A partner who can't furnish the money is not a partner you need to even be considering.
That's right.
That is, of course, unless you are the money partner.
Well,
then you're looking for someone to find
do the work
and to do the deal. Yes.
Absolutely. That's correct. With fear and trepidation in my heart, I'm going to mention credit cards, and we're going to give you a couple caveats so that you don't go and spend yourself into bankruptcy here. But it is a good source of funds if you use it correctly.
I love credit cards. In fact, I bought hundreds of houses on MasterCard. Think about it. You got a pocket full of credit cards, for those who do. You have a pocket full of credit cards, and you have a line of credit on every one of them. You can go down to the bank, and you can get cash on them. You don't have to pay any points. You don't have to apply for any loan. Most of them, you got a checkbook that came along with them. You just write a check on them. Mm-hmm. Folks, if you've got a credit card in your pocket right now for it's got a $5,000 line of credit on it, pick up the phone and tell them you want to increase it to 10. If you got a $10,000 line, pick up the phone and tell them you want to increase your credit line to $25,000. They'll do it just by asking. Now, don't do more than a couple, 3 of them in a month, in a maximum, because sometimes they will check your credit, and too many credit inquiries on your credit is not going to work, and they'll get suspicious. So 2 or 3 a month. If you only have 2 or 3 credit cards, start filling out some of these applications that you get in the mail all the time, or even apply for them if you wish. But make sure that you get at least a $5,000 to $10,000 line of credit on that credit card, or it's not worth having. Turn down the ones that won't give you at least a $5,000 to $10,000 cash withdrawal. I have students, Sean. I know some students who have as much as $500,000 worth of credit in their back pocket in the form of MasterCard and Visa. I mean, it just doesn't get any easier than that.
That's right.
You go buy a house. You make an offer on it. You write a check from your credit card. You write a check for the repairs. You go sell the house. You pay all the money back.
Well, you have to pay it back, Ron.
You have to pay it back with interest. All that big interest you have to pay for that few months. I see people who get upset because they have to pay 18% interest on a credit card to go out and make $15,000, $20,000 on a house. You know, that,
tripping over dimes to get to the dollars.
Walking over dimes to get to the dollars. That's exactly right. So credit cards are really an easy way to generate cash. And now when you're out there making offers, you know exactly where the money's going to come from. Just whip out the old MasterCard, write a check on it, and pay it back when you get the house sold. Mm-hmm. By the way, let me caution you right here. Do not use credit cards for toys. Borrow the money, fix the house, sell it, pay it back.
That's right. Don't take it as if it's profit and go buy a new Porsche.
Yeah. How do you think I know that, Sean?
Well, you might not have bought a Porsche, but I bet you bought something else.
Yes. All my lessons I had to learn the hard way.
Well, better they listen to this tape than to go out and learn that same lesson the hard way.
Exactly. Credit lines, same way.
Okay.
If you have a home and you don't have a credit line on it, it'd be a good time to go get it. This is one time that I don't have any problem at all with you going down to the bank and signing the note personally, because a credit line is a loan where you actually don't pay interest on the money unless you use it. It's not an amortizing loan. If you go down and get a $50,000 credit line on your house, you write a check on it for $10,000, you only pay interest on that $10,000. Mm-hmm. So it's just like a credit card, except that it is a much cheaper interest rate.
That's right.
Credit lines on your houses they're cheaper than, sometimes cheaper than mortgages.
Well, and they're free to get, too. I mean, all these banks advertise home equity loans, home equity lines of credit. You just go down to the bank. They'll do everything but pay you to sign up, even if you don't borrow any money initially, because they know that sooner or later you'll use that money and they'll have a nice secure loan and they'll get some interest and you have it available.
Yeah. So take advantage of that. If you happen to have a home with a lot of equity in it, go down and apply for a credit line and just use it wisely. That's all. Same with credit cards. You need to get as many of those as you can. Now, nowadays, by the way, credit cards many of them don't even have any annual fee. I mean, they're in a war out there. The credit card companies are in a war trying to get people to take their cards. Anytime you can get a $5,000, $10,000 credit line on a credit card and don't have any annual fee, I mean, it's senseless not to take it.
That's right.
You might need it
all
someday.
of them
you can. They don't cost you anything. Pile them high. Mm-hmm. You never know when the deal's going to come along when you're going to need them.
That's right. That's right. And you never have too much cash available to buy real estate. Well, now, Ron, let's talk about some more creative ways that we might raise some funds for a deal.
Okay. There's always trading. For example, let's suppose that you have sold a house and you've got some monthly payments coming in on a house that you've sold, either a second mortgage or a first mortgage or whatever. Anytime you have an income stream that already exists There are all kinds of sellers out there who would love to have that income stream instead of that equity in that property. I have traded many mortgages into houses. I'll take a $20,000 note that I've collected on a house, and I never have anything in the note. It's always free money. I bought the house and I sold the house and I took back the second mortgage on it or whatever. I will then take that, and that means that I've got all my cash back out of the property when I did that, and then some. I will take that paper, and I'll go trade that $20,000 note for $20,000 worth of equity from another property. So if you've got existing income streams, you won't be shopping long till you'll find sellers who would love to have that in payments rather than the equity in their property.
Okay.
And the same thing works for other goods. You know, if you've got some goods laying around, if you've got cars or vehicles or boats or motorhomes or anything like that, or even services for that matter. Many times you'll be able to trade those goods and services into real estate for equity in real estate and make it easier to buy, especially when you find ugly junker houses. Since your price is lower, you don't have to have that many goods and services to fully cover the cost of the property in total. In fact, I got to tell you the story one time, Sean, about where I did the opposite. I had $30,000 worth of free little second mortgages where I bought the house and sold it and got my buyers a loan for about 85% of the value, and then took back a 10 or 15% second mortgage on the property.
Okay, so you bought a house with this, right, Ron? No, invested it wisely?
Well, no. I had $30,000 of these things. Actually, what I did was I got this brainstorm that I needed a motorhome. So I ran this ad one day. It says, "We'll trade real estate for motorhome." And this guy called me, and he had this motorhome. It was a 30-foot Southwind. It was only about 4 years old, and it sat out there, and he had this big old shed built over it and everything, and his wife just wouldn't let him leave town with it. He got this big old new motorhome. He had it for 4 years, and he'd been on the road with it one time. So I got to talking to him, and I realized that he didn't really want real estate. What he really wanted was an income stream. And then I got to thinking, well, I got an income stream. I've got 5 of these little second mortgages. They all totaled about $30,000. Actually, I had more than that of them, but I just put 5 of them in a package to total about $30,000, which was the value of his motorhome. And he owned his motorhome free and clear, so I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you these 5 little second mortgages. They are paying a total of $450 a month in exchange for your motorhome free and clear. He thought about that for a few days, and he said, I kind of like that idea. I'm not using the motorhome. I could use the $450 a month. So we exchanged, even Steven. Of course, that was one of the stupidest things I ever did. But I drove that motorhome. I had that motorhome for 5 years, paying insurance on it and buying tags for it. And, I even cranked it up and drove it a couple of times.
That's great, Ron. So you traded $450 a month for a motorhome.
I gave up $30,000 worth of paper, a $450 income stream for a motorhome that I hardly ever used. That every time I'd get in it and crank it up, something would go wrong with it. And I sold that thing 5 years later for $12,000. That was one of my better investments, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
But it was free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, free is a wonderful thing.
Free
Ron.
is hard to beat.
That's right. And so, folks, obviously, when you trade those off, get something worthwhile for it, not the motorhome that you can park in the backyard.
It's not really hard to raise money to buy houses. One thing that I would caution my listeners very heavily not to do, there is no single-family house deal, ladies and gentlemen, worth you going down to the bank and putting down a down payment and borrowing money on a long-term basis just to have the privilege of becoming a landlord. You need to look for other ways of funding deals, and going down to the bank and risking everything you own is not one of those ways, in my opinion. And I'm telling you this from the School of Hard Knocks. There's all kinds of ways to get money, and frankly, the quicker you get banks out of your plan of action for that, the better that you're going to sleep at night. Now, I'm not telling you that you can't use banks for real estate deals, but I am telling you that the real estate deal should be big enough to risk you going down to the bank and putting all your assets at risk, because when you sign that note at the bank, you are in fact risking all of your assets. And I've just learned from the School of Hard Knocks, when you're doing little single-family house deals, you don't need the banks. Learn to create your offers and construct your deals so that the banks are not a part of them. Besides, who in the world wants a bank running their life telling them what they qualify for and what they can't qualify for? And even if your credit is excellent, you're going to get cut off pretty soon, and that's going to be the end of your investment career, because you won't be able to go down to the bank and keep on borrowing money. So you got to look for alternative ways. And I've just given you some ways to raise cash to buy junkers on the assumption that you're going to retail them and sell them. But let's talk about here just for a minute. Suppose you weren't going to sell them. Suppose you were going to keep some of these properties. The private loan, for example. you can get a private loan for 10 years just as easy as you can on a short-term loan. There's been many times when I have funded deals with private loans. In fact, I funded one today like that, Sean.
I was just going to say, we were talking about that at the office.
I funded one today like that. I put a 10-year private loan on a house for one of my students, and his total objective going in was to buy the house, fix it, and then sell it on a wraparound mortgage. So he would have an incoming payment coming in, and he would pay out the private loan payment on my underlying loan, and it worked out real well. He isn't personally obligated on that. Nobody's going to be knocking on his wife's door if he has a heart attack and can't pay it, so he's not risking everything he owns. The loan is very well collateralized, and the truth is, if the loan went bad, the lender would simply go after the house anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different world when you do that. Now, if you're going to use credit cards, obviously you're going to do that for a short-term purpose. I would say that would be for the use of buying and fixing and reselling. Partners the same way. I just don't really want any long-term partners. Seller financing. There's no better financing than seller financing. For various reasons. The flexibility of it, you can get lower payments, you can get better rates, you can change the rules later on if you don't like them. And if you're going to get into any long-term deals, I would strongly suggest that you work for seller financing into your portfolio or your arsenal of tools to raise money. That is the best place in the world to raise funds, is by having the seller be your bank.
Okay, and if people want more information on that kind of thing, we've got more materials available that deal in depth with seller financing.
In the creating no qualifying financing module, we're going to talk about the seller financing in greater detail. I don't want to get in too deeply here,
right,
but it should be a part of everybody's real estate career.
Sure.
You need to understand how to work with sellers and how to create some real good seller financing that works for the seller, for you, and for your buyers.
That's right, and you can tell, folks, the more options and the more ways you have of buying real estate, the more deals you're going to find out there that can continue to make you money. So, Ron, do you have any last words on finding money?
Well, again, if you're in the business of looking for junkers, the purpose and the focus should be on finding the bargains. If you find the bargains, the money will come. Again, we're only worried about it as a last resort. Our objective is to find them, find people who will buy them quickly because they are bargains and we're passing them on to them. In those cases, we will rarely ever need money. So in cases where you're looking for the hold for the long term or where you're buying to retail, I think we've covered that. And again, focus on finding the deal. You find the deal, the money will come.
Sound advice. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.